I come home from school, I have to take care of them, make sure they eat, then I have to do homework, then I have to make sure my brother's good. Just I felt like I had kids growing up.
So, thanks a lot for doing this. And what's your name?
Valerie Walker.
Okay, cool. I mean, this is not a like an interrogation or anything like that. so,
That made me laugh.
uh, so, uh, tell me about your backstory. Like, how did you grow up?
Um, I was born in Ames, Iowa, or 1999. And we moved to Houston because that's where my family is from. We're all from Houston, but my mom and my dad moved to Iowa because he was going to school at Iowa State during the time while she was pregnant with me. She had me in Ames, and then we moved back to Houston. So I grew up in Houston, like that's where I grew up. I don't really remember anything about Iowa. Um, yeah, and we grew up. It was poor. We were poor. Like we didn't have much money, so it wasn't really anything too crazy. But yeah,
Oh, cool, cool, cool. So you grew up with your siblings, right?
yeah.
All right. So
You're
how
welcome.
growing up with them?
I mean, we had each other. Like growing up, we were really all we had. If that makes sense. So growing up with an older sister, it was like she was bossy. So, and I was just so stubborn. I was like, "You're not gonna tell me what to do." So growing up with her was hard because we would always argue because she wanted to be the one in control. But with my younger brother, it was like he was my best friend. Like growing up, we were close, we was tight, but we still are today. But it's different now than it was back then. But growing up with an older sister was hard for me because I'm just the independent type and I don't like people telling me what to do. But she was the type to always want us to do what she said. And if we didn't, it was a problem. So
All right,
it was a struggle for me personally.
cool. So how was school? You mentioned Iowa, right? Um,
Yeah.
did you go to school in Houston and then go to school in Iowa, or did you?
No, actually I went to school in Houston my whole life. Like so Houston was where I was at, like majority because um when we left Iowa, I was only 3. So I wasn't really in school yet. So once we left, we stayed in Houston and I went to school in Houston. And public schools they were okay because in Houston, public schools are not that great per se because the teachers are underpaid and overworked and it was like so many kids like growing up, so we weren't really attended to like we needed to. But I was a reader growing up, so I love to read, so I learned that way as well. I learned like when I was reading, I learned words, all that. So I was the academic type, you could say. I was in my books all the time.
So so I suppose that you had like a lot of friends, and no, didn't have a.
No,
Tell me about that.
I was the silent type. I was really quiet. I kept to myself. I minded my business. I was that type. Like I didn't really have a lot of friends, and I was okay with that because I'm just the type. I like doing stuff on my own time. So that comes back to the independent. I like doing stuff on my own. Like I don't like people rushing me. And with friends, you always plan stuff together. You got to just like it was just. So I had a few friends, but it wasn't that many.
All right,
So
cool, cool. So you had like I would say like a normal childhood. Um,
yeah,
how about
semi-normal.
your parents? Your parents were they together? Were they married? Were they?
No, my mom when she left and came back to Houston, they were still married, but they weren't in the same state. So they were supposed to go back and move back up to Iowa. And my dad, he was getting stuff ready for us, and my mom decided not to go. So we wound up staying here. They got a divorce. And yeah, that was that. Like it was a lot of stuff we didn't like. I didn't learn about until I was an adult. Like now, I'm just now learning a lot of stuff that happened between my mom and my dad. So yeah.
Oh, got you, got you, got you. So like how old are you now?
21. I'll be 22 this year.
Okay. So your teenage years, you were going to school, you were a bookworm, um, and then like were there any like things that happened that caused you to shift or anything like that in life? Any pivotal situ-
In high school, like I started struggling with my sexuality. That's one big thing that happened in life. And like this was during the time me and my sister were actually getting close. We were becoming best friends because she's my best friend now, but we weren't like that growing up. In high school, I was like a junior and she was a senior around this time. So we were just now like really getting over the, sister rivalry thing, And so like at that time I was struggling with my sexuality and different types of things like that. Like I played volleyball. I had been playing volleyball since I was 12, so in the 7th grade. So I was an athlete and I was a bookworm. So I really didn't have time for anything else because I played club volleyball, which was year round, and then I had seasonal volleyball for my school. So I was busy like a whole lot. So around that time I met this girl on the volleyball team and she was gay. And I started struggling with my sexuality, but that's one big thing that happened. When I was around like 6 years old, I witnessed somebody getting shot. And it really like I feel like growing up it really desensitized me to a lot of things, like because one time I was probably a junior in high school. They found someone in our apartment complex. They found a dude shot and dead by the dumpster near my apartment complex. Well, it was in our apartment complex near our house, like our apartment. And so like it didn't phase me, and I realized like I was desensitized to like shoot people getting shot because it was so normalized in the neighborhood that I grew up in.
that's traumatic.
Yeah.
For someone to get desensitized or something like that, they had to see it on a regular basis.
It was very because it was a lot of gang members that lived in the apartment complex. Like we were in a poor part of the neighborhood. Like it was our apartment complex and then another apartment complex, and they had a built-in office for officers to sit in there and watch
Wow.
because it was that bad. Like so many gang members, shootings, people getting killed and left, their bodies getting left in the streets of the apartment complex. It was like that bad. So it was a normal thing for me. And for people to say like, you've never seen someone get shot, I was like, I have. Like it's a normal thing for me, which is not good, but that's how it was growing up. And then it was the end of my junior year, the beginning of senior year, when we were having a whole lot of problems with my mom and my stepdad. So me and my brother, um, we decided to leave and go live with our grandparents because it was just my dad. He found out that like it was a struggle. So okay, basically, I'm gonna just tell you the whole backstory.
Yeah.
Um, we weren't like eating like at home. So like the only time we would eat was at school. And me and my brother, we were both athletes. He was a basketball player, I was a volleyball player. And during this time, my sister, she wasn't living at home. So it was just us two. And then we had younger siblings who was small. They were like 2 and 4 or something like that. And so we weren't eating at home because my stepdad he was struggling, and it was just a struggle. So when I say we were poor, we were poor. So I don't know how my dad found out, but he found out and he was really upset, and he didn't want us living with our mom anymore. So we had to make the decision, like, do we stay or do we leave? So in the end, we decided to leave and live with our grandparents for my senior year, and my brother was a sophomore. So that was a big thing. Like it was a big deal. As I look back on it now, it's a really big deal.
Jeez, man. Yeah, that's really tough. So, uh, you had to be you aren't the oldest sister, but you had to be kind of like the
Mhm.
oldest sister at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really tough, especially for like a teenager that's dealing with school and and trying to further herself in life and then have to deal with those situations. And did that like take like a mental toll on you, or it
Oh yes. My senior year was terrible. Like I was depressed. It was hard. Like I would be depressed and I wouldn't eat for days. And then I would like, it was up and down. And then me playing sports, like it was bad because you should be eating every day to get the proper, nutrients for your body, being an athlete.
Yep.
But I wasn't taking care of myself. Like it was hard. I was like always just sad. I remember at one point in time, like, I thought about committing suicide. Once I got the scars, but you can't see them now. But I was a cutter for a while, and I used to cut myself. Huh?
Wow, I never would have guessed that at all.
Yeah. So it was hard. Like growing up was really hard for us because of the simple fact, like my stepdad, he was there, but he wasn't there as a father, if that makes sense. He let my mom be the father and the mother, even though he was married to her, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Like it was always that way. And I feel like growing up without a dad physically there was hard for me as a young woman because like you want someone to look up to, someone to tell, talk about I wanted to have those moments where I say, oh, I met this guy. I want you to meet, you know what I'm saying? Like it was like little stuff like that
yeah,
I feel like I missed out on with my dad living in Iowa. But it was hard. Like it was very rough.
yeah, man. So how was the transition to college? Were you still battling with depression from the transition from
Oh
to
yeah.
the college?
Yeah. Yeah, I was, but I don't know. Okay. So when I got offered a scholarship to play at a junior college in Colorado, I was excited and everything, but it was more so like I felt free. I don't know how to explain because growing up, I had little siblings. Like I said, I had younger siblings, but my mom, she would always leave us at home with them. So I come home from school, I have to take care of them, make sure they eat. Then I have to do homework. Then I have to make sure my brother's good. Just I felt like I had kids growing up, and it always felt like for real, like because my mom, she would be at home with them all day and then she'd like plan to do stuff and then she'd just leave us there for hours and hours, like, and she'd come home at like 10, 11 o'clock and I have to get up in the morning to go catch the bus at 5:45. So I was stressed. Like it was hard for me, and that's another reason why I was like I need a break. So that's why I decided to leave, and my brother, he didn't want to stay by himself, so he decided to come with me, and that's why we really moved like with our grandparents. So
Okay. So how was it living with your grandparents?
oh, okay. So my aunt, she was living with our grandparents at the time, and she had little kids. But it was different because, huh?
Those will be your cousins.
Yeah, yeah. My little cousins, so they were living with my grandparents at the time, but it didn't feel like the same. I felt personally, I felt better. I had time to do other things besides worry about like what we were going to eat because sometimes like when me and my brother didn't have any food, um I'd go to the store and buy us something to eat or something, or I cook us something to eat if my mom hadn't cooked, and it was just hard. Like so, going to my grandparents' house, it was better because she always cooked. She made sure we ate. She let us be teenagers. She let us be kids, and I feel like I had to grow up super fast due to the fact that I was always worrying about my younger siblings. So
Yeah,
I feel like I had to be an adult when it wasn't truly my time to be an adult.
yeah, yeah.
But it was nice.
So
It's a change of pace.
yeah, it definitely. So where did your grandma live? She still lived in Texas, or was it a different?
Yeah, she lived in Houston. She just lived like 20 minutes from where my mom and stepdad lived. So it wasn't that far. And so we were still like in district. So we didn't have to move schools or anything, which was nice.
Got you, got you. So Did you ever like get to speak with your dad? And because I know how you explained that he wasn't really there, but did you have like any anger towards him or anything like that? Did you get to speak to him about it?
Surprisingly, I wasn't angry. Like, I feel like my sister, she took it the hardest
Yeah,
with her being the oldest and seeing them together longer. You know what I'm saying? Because she's a year and a half older than me. And so she took it the worst. Like, she took their divorce, she took it horribly. Like, she acted out in a different way than I did. Like, and they got divorced when I was like in the second grade. So I was still really young. I
gotcha.
was probably, yeah, like I was super young, but she acted out in a different way than I did. Like, I was angry, but I didn't cry. She cried, like, really, she cried for a long time after they got divorced. I more so acted out at school. Like, I was getting written up all the time, getting suspended from school for fighting, all of that when I was in elementary school.
But
So I was
you were getting suspended and
oh yes, I was bad. You can ask my sister, like, I was a little fight. I was a fighter, and I feel like today I still am, but it's calmed down significantly. So, but it's like, because I was small when I was in elementary school. I was little, like, I was not big at all. And kids would pick on me. So I would fight. Like, I would fight them. And I would always get suspended. It was, yeah, I was a fighter. But yeah.
it's crazy. So in all of this, I know you're not like old at all. You're like only 21. But
Mhm.
in did you grow up with like a Christian background? How did you get to meet God? Like how did that happen?
Um, we grew up in church. Like, we grew up going to church every Sunday. We get up in the morning, go to church. But I never personally had a relationship with him. Like, until I was probably 14. And I was at church once, and that was the first time I ever got filled with the Holy Spirit and actually experienced God for myself. But I was still not, doing what I should have been doing. Like, I was still just not living how I should have been, if that makes sense. And I was still young. So I was like, I didn't truly understand. I was just going off of what my mom told me. So, yeah.
Right, right. Yeah. It seems like that happens a lot, especially with the younger generation. They
Yeah.
go to church, but they not really taught. Well, a lot of them aren't really taught about God, so they don't really know Him for Himself. So, at what point of your very short life uh, you uh, say, I'm a be serious and go all the way with God"?
Um, it was probably last year, at the beginning of last year. And I was like,
What
I
happened?
gotta get together. It was a pivotal moment for me because I had okay, when I went to college, I was a virgin. So I hadn't been sexual with anyone. And then I met this guy, and he took my virginity, and we broke up, and it was just, I was depressed, like, very depressed. I would drink, smoke. I would do anything I can just to, like, distract myself from being sad, like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And for a long time I just couldn't, like, figure it out. And then, like, I started watching sermons on, I just, like, one day I was on YouTube, and I was like, oh, it's a sermon about, it was like, I forgot what it was. I think it was Michael Todd, something with him. And I watched it, and I was like, wow, like, so I just started continuing I just watched sermons every day. I would just get up, watch sermons on my computer, do my homework. Cause at this time I was a sophomore,
Yeah.
and um I had just graduated with my associate's degree, and it was over Christmas time when I actually was like, okay, this is not going to work. Like, being depressed is not the way to go. Cause I was always sad. I would think about committing to it. Like, it was bad. So I was in a really dark place, and I was just like, okay, let's try, going back to what my mom always taught me, that God is your strength. He will get you through dark times. You just have to trust in him. So I started looking at sermons slowly but surely. And I had a Bible, but I had not been reading it. One of my old teammates, my freshman year, she I was like, I was telling her, I was like, I need to get a Bible. And she gifted me a Bible. And I had never touched it. Like, she gave it to me. I never read it. I read it like twice, maybe. And so I was like, maybe I should, truly get in the word. So I started getting in my word and reading my Bible, praying, just slowly getting back into what I, grew up doing. And so yeah, I started doing that. But then when I stopped, because last year it was a rocky year for me. Quarantine happened, and then
Yep.
I was working and working and working. So I didn't necessarily I was working like long shifts, like, because me and my sister, we got a job at this placement center for juvenile delinquent kids, and so we got a job there, and we were working there over quarantine. So from March to like June, I was working, and I had stopped reading my Bible. Um, I had stopped praying and just keeping God first. I went back to my old ways, and um after that, like, I met this guy, and that was it was so dumb, but I met this guy from work, and he was older than me. He was like 25 or 26, and at this time I was only 20. I hadn't turned 21 yet, so he was a little older than me. And I met him, and when they say you find your identity in someone else, and I found myself finding my identity in him and not who I was, and not who God called us to be as Christians. So I found myself just not being happy unless I was talking to him, or it was emotionally, it was bad. So after that, like, we stopped talking, and I was like, okay, this is not it. Like, it was just always a moment where I was like, what am I doing? Like, in the back of my mind, I knew doing certain things wasn't right, but I didn't care, if that makes sense. I didn't care about myself. Like, I had no self-love. I had no confidence in myself, none of that. So I was like, okay, we're really gonna get into it. So after that, like, I came to school. So I've been at this school that I'm at now since last year in August of 2020. So when I got here, I was like, look, you got to get yourself together. So I really started seeking God. I've been praying, listening. I've stopped listening to all secular music, because I found that was making me sad as well, because I'm the type of person, I'm going to listen to music when my emotions are, I'm gonna listen to music that reflects my emotions. So if I'm happy, I'm listening to, upbeat music. And if I'm sad, I'm listening to sad music. And I realized it would make me even more sad, even more depressed. And I was like, okay, so we're just gonna throw away all secular music. So I don't listen to secular music anymore. I only listen to gospel music. And I always look at stuff, like, I try to limit what I look at on TV, because that was affecting me as well.
Yep.
So yeah, truly, last year was really when I was like, I need to get myself together, because being depressed was not like what I wanted for myself. Like, I was digging myself in a hole, and every time something happened, I feel like I was going deeper and deeper, and I was just in a dark place. So yeah, last year was when I was like, okay, come on, we gotta do this, and I've been sticking with it ever since.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, that's good. So after you took God seriously, have you, like, seen a difference in yourself?
Oh yeah, I have seen a significant difference. Like, I've noticed I'm like always at peace, and like when I was like depressed all the time, it's like I couldn't be alone. I had to be with somebody. Like, I had to be in someone's presence. Like, I didn't like being by myself, and I realized it's because I didn't like who I was as a person. But now that I'm truly like learning that I do love myself, learning to love myself, and all of that, like, I could be alone all day and won't have a problem. Like, I won't talk to anybody all day, and I'll be fine. Like, I'll be still at peace with myself. And I just realized, because God, he has given me so much peace, because I used to pray all the time. Like, I want peace. I don't want to be sad or depressed all the time. So yeah, I've noticed a significant change, and I'm always smiling too. notice I'm a happy person. So
Nice. Yeah, yeah. Because I met you when I met you, you were like always smiling. So for you to
yeah,
tell me that you were like cutting yourself and you used to be a fighter, not at all. That isn't, that's not 2 plus 2.
yeah, yeah,
Caught me off guard, but yeah, it definitely made a
yeah.
180. So that's great. Yeah. So thank you very much for uh your your story, and
You're welcome. You're welcome.
this is gonna definitely help other people who are going through the same thing. But it's your story is rough, man. Like being like really young and dealing with school. It was like you're a young single mom. That's
That's what it really felt like too for a long time. And I have no grudges, and that's crazy because even after all that, I have no grudges against my mom. Like I understood where she was coming from, but at the same time, I was still a kid. But I never was angry with her because I love my siblings. Like I could be with them all day, we have fun, but now I look at it as okay, I know what I can do. I can be a mom. You know, it's not like if I do have children, I will be a good mom. But it was rough. I didn't look at it like that back then, but now I see it as okay, I'm prepared to have, when I do have kids, I won't go crazy like some first time moms will. So yeah.
and the great thing about it is a good thing that you accepted God when you were young, because this a lot of people think that this Christian journey is just you give yourself to God and that's it. You ready
Yeah.
to go meet Him in the clouds, but that's not how it goes. They're going to be trials. They're going to be a lot of
Mhm.
temptations, but um, when you continue to walk with Him, you gain more wisdom, you will gain more understanding, and you will learn that you'll be able to handle a lot of the situations much
Mhm.
better. And
Yeah.
great thing about it is that you will help somebody along the way
Yeah.
that's going through the same thing. So once again, thank you, thanks a lot, and definitely God is not finished with you. He got way more to show you
Yes.
and way more light to lead you into. So yeah, it's been great.
I know. It's been fun. This is
All right.
nice.